So, my guest on this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast is Bobby Donohue. Now, Bobby is the founder of Planet Bonehead, which is a teacher leading or learning centre rather to empower educators to confidently, that's a key word here, address climate change with young learners. His professional development courses offer certifications that cover climate change facts versus myths, innovative teaching strategies, lesson planning, and ways to integrate climate change across various subjects. Planet Bonehead's used in classrooms across 86 countries, empowering the next generation to build a sustainable future. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it.
Big introduction, big topic,
Yeah.
really complex, and let's face it, very few people really truly understand it. Where on earth do you start?
I wake up every day and ask that question. There are so many aspects to it and I'm always wondering, like, what's the most important aspect to it, which I believe is the classroom resources for the kids. So that's where Planet Bonehead began. It began creating things to teach kids about the environment, to teach them environmental science, and then my own personal interests in engineering and green technology and everything going on with climate change in our world today has steered it towards teaching them specifically about climate change. I've learned two things. One is that it's very difficult to talk about climate change without all the doom and gloom and the we're all going to die stuff, and that's just way too scary to talk to kids about. It's way too scary to talk to most adults about. They don't want to know, you know. But the good news that I've learned in several years now of talking with green tech leaders and climate scientists is that we actually have the ability to solve all of our problems. It's not like we have a problem when we don't know what to do about it. We have a problem when we know exactly what to do about it. We're just not doing it, you know? So the thing I've learned is that green tech is saving the world and nobody knows about it. So they're already out there creating amazing things that are doing wonders for our climate, and they're doing it regardless of whether anybody cares. So we're just going to do it. And so that was my attitude with Planet Bonehead. Is I'm seeing that there is no climate education programs for kids. Teachers want to teach kids about climate change, and kids want to learn about it. Parents want their kids to learn about it, and teachers don't have the resources for it. So I was like, well, somebody's got to do it. I'm going to do it. And, you know, somebody's got to be that guy. So I decided to be that person. And then, you know, I have an ego, and you wake up every day and go like, am I allowed to be that person? Like, who am I? You know? So where do you start? I start there, and it expands from there. That's my answer to that.
And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you say that everybody wants to kind of obviously empower their children, and the teachers, I'm sure, are kind of clamoring for understanding, probably a little bit fearful. There's a lot to learn. I haven't got any time to do this, but I know I need to do it, and I want to do it. Do you think we've almost, as a society, wrapped ourselves up in the terminology? Well, particularly the acronyms, because you've got ESGs, you've got SDGs, you've got CSR, you've got, I mean, it's countless, isn't it? Number of acronyms and different kind of definitions of this and that. And, obviously there's the big debate between carbon, neutral and now net zero. And it takes a lot of kind of unwrapping, doesn't it? Do you think the fear of kind of almost embarrassing yourself by getting it wrong has put a lot of people off this learning?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. The fear, that's a really good way to put it. The fear of getting it wrong. And in business, the fear of looking bad, because you've got a few ways to look bad as a marketer in business. There's you're not doing enough is bad enough, right? Because depending on the size of your company, your stakeholders, your customers, your employees, they might just be calling you out on social media that you're not doing enough. But on top of that, there's also doing the wrong things, doing things that appear to be greenwashing. Look at me, I'm doing the thing, but you're not, you know what I mean? Or you're being accused of not because you don't know well enough that the thing you're doing isn't good enough. And that's a shame, because really, it's not that difficult. There are things like it's one thing to say, well, we produce all of this carbon, so we're going to purchase carbon offsets, and there we go, hands are clean. That's nice, but your stuff's still going in the air. You know what I mean? How about not doing that? That would be better. And we're kind of getting to the point now where we're realizing that we can't just say, well, I'm doing all this bad stuff, but I'm paying money to offset it. We're at the point now where it's like, actually, we have to stop just doing the bad stuff. And the green technology that I mentioned earlier has the answers to that. It's not that, I'm going to go out of business now. It's that there's a little bit of temporary pain to maybe change some of the ways I'm doing. But the long-term gain from that can be so much better than if I just stay on the path that I'm on. But I think so. Part of the answer is there's the fear of doing it wrong, but there's also the fear of the pain from change. We have the fear of the unknown. I'm not entirely convinced that if we make the change that we're going to do better or as well, but we're kind of proving that you will. And we need more businesses to get on board with that to really put their money where their ESG reports are. You know what I mean? It's one thing to say we're doing these things, but it's really high time that we all did them more. I think.
I so love, Bobby, that you just literally hit the nail on the head when you were saying about the offset thing, because I think that's been a real distraction. Some might say an excuse, because of course nature doesn't understand offsets.
No.
As you say, you're pumping it out anyway. The fact you do an offset, well, hold on, nature still sees that you're pumping this stuff out. So it is an excuse, isn't it? Do you think too many of us have taken the easy option here?
I absolutely do. And this isn't me sitting on my perch of perfection, pointing fingers at people. I'm not perfect at things either. And I think, part of it too is that a lot of what we expect people to do, I'm going to bring this to the level of individuals instead of specifically marketing for a minute, because I think this example will make it a little more clear. Plastic straws, for example. You get people who are very, very environmentally conscious who will say, we all need to stop using plastic straws. And on one side of the coin, they're absolutely correct. Plastic straws and other single-use plastics are absolutely horrible for our environment. They're terrible, but the alternatives stink too, because the alternatives are like the paper straws or not using straws or whatever. And it becomes I'm going to use the word hardship. I mean, using a paper straw is not a hardship, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's an inconvenience. And it kind of, the problem isn't that it's hard and, oh, my life stinks now. That's not the problem. The problem is it goes against human nature. Human nature is to make things as convenient for ourselves as possible. And that's just built into our species. So we can't blame each other for being that way when we have evolved that way, so when the only answer to the environmental issue seems to be stop doing that and stop doing this thing and make sure that you spend an hour a day fixing your garbage so it's perfect, everybody's going to be like, you know what, this is just way too much of an inconvenience. It's not hard. I'm not working in the mines. I'm not dying in a hole somewhere. It's just a pain in the butt. And so you forget to do it some days, or you make excuses that seem rational. I'm one person out of 8 billion. Is my thing really going to make a difference? And we can rationalize these things. I think the answer to our collective problems becomes, how do we find solutions that go with human nature rather than work against them? And so in marketing, the answer just became, well, I'll just spend money on it, and that's not a solution. We need a solution that works in business and works on the individual level, that actually goes with the flow of human nature. On the personal side, the answers that I found lie in green technology. There's a company that I use as an example all the time. They're actually based in the UK, called Hughes Energy. They have what's called an autoclave. It's Jules Verne 1800s technology. It uses steam, pressure, and temperature, and that's it. You basically take garbage right out of a landfill and you put it in this metal thing called an autoclave, and you turn it on, and in 1 hour it turns that however many tons of garbage you put in there into this fibrous material. It's called Wilson fiber, after the scientist that invented this process. And Wilson fiber can be used to create alternatives for wood chips, coal, and petroleum. And when you burn the alternative fuels from the Wilson fiber, they burn clean. Now, here we don't have to stop using gasoline engines. We don't have to stop burning coal. We don't have to stop making garbage. We can put all our garbage into the garbage cans the way we want to. Just here's my thing. I don't have to, I'm done with this tissue box. I don't have to take this little plastic thing out, well, this is a visual, sorry. But, I don't have to take the plastic out of the box before I put it in the recycling bin, and just put it in the garbage, and everything goes in the landfill. And except it doesn't go in the landfill. Now it goes into the garbage, and instead of going to a landfill, it goes to the autoclave, and the autoclave turns it into Wilson fiber. And instead of pulling oil out of the ground and burning that so that we have all this stuff going into the air, we burn the Wilson fiber fuel instead. And that does not put the stuff into the air. So human nature, we are still doing everything we like to do. We're going to keep making garbage whether we want to or not. I'm not going to buy food from the grocery store and walk home holding my meat and apples in my hands. I'm going to use bags to carry them because that's human nature, So this is what we need to do. And we need to figure out as businesses, how do we do that? Because cutting down all the trees and then paying money to some organization that plants trees is not the same thing as not cutting down the trees in the first place. Putting carbon into the atmosphere and then paying for carbon offsets is not the same thing as just don't put the carbon into the atmosphere. Let's figure out how to use alternative fuels that work in business rather than work against business. Let's figure out how to take all these people that have these jobs and use their skills that they have to do jobs for the new millennium that we're already a quarter of the way into. It's not even the new millennium anymore. We're going to be halfway through it before we know it. So it's not even new job training. People have skills. They if they just applied themselves, people could say, wow, I'm really good at this. I could do this in this business now. Yeah, so green technology is environmental technology to solve climate issues. That's basically what it is. The easiest examples are, the solar panels and windmills and things like that. But it's so much more than that. Green technology is not just like we tend to think of it as, instead of having these cars that we've always had, let's throw them in the garbage. Except not a landfill. Let's get rid of them or stop making them. And let's make an entirely different technology now that's going to just upend the whole world and industry. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that. The green technology is also trying to figure out how to take the technology that we have, how to take the business models that we have, and just make them more friendly to the environment. We don't need to destroy the planet to make money. They're not mutually exclusive, So to me, the most essential and the most intriguing green technologies are the ones that are working with us as a species rather than trying to just completely start a new ball game. Because I don't think that's what people want. That's why there's so much pushback against things like solar panels. They're ugly, or windmills. They're killing birds. It's like people will just latch on to any excuse that they can find to not have it because it's too big of a step away from what they're used to. And in business, the problem then becomes, well, we already get our energy from this source to run our factories or to run our offices or whatever, and to upend that is too difficult. But what if we can do more things that are like plug and play? Instead of using this fuel, we can use this fuel, but keep the engine. And now you don't have to change your infrastructure. You're just using a different fuel that is potentially, maybe the fuel's a little bit more expensive, but on the output, you're saving money. So it stays balanced, or it even makes you money in the long run, because you also get the marketing benefits of that. Your carbon footprint's going down. You can market that to your stakeholders, and you can tell them, look at what we're doing. We're not paying for offsets. We are actually not putting stuff in the air that's going to kill us in 100 years. That's what green technology is to me. And that's what I'm trying to focus on and help to prepare kids for careers in these fields. So that's what it is.
And
I
I'm
never know
guessing
how to end my answers. I just
no, but
keep
it's
going.
it's just, I mean, one flows into the next, really, because I guess and I'm sure other people are kind of picking up on this too. Is I say we, I'm reflecting the audience here, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that we collectively can get a sense of why you've decided to go for what you've described as young learners. So the younger emerging population here, because it's almost like they'll get this, they'll understand we need something new. Innovation isn't then, if they were innovating, you put some young learners, some school kids, or sort of college students or whatever into a room, they won't have all of the, I guess, the negative, we tried it before and it didn't work kind of angles that will then push back on this stuff, because they'll be fresh thinking. There's something really kind of refreshing about kind of getting that innovation coming through from younger people rather than older people who've kind of been there, seen it, done it. But that's the problem, is that they know that there's barriers, they know there's problems, so they won't necessarily see it in the same way. Is that one of the driving kind of forces behind you? Because it would certainly drive me in your direction.
That's the whole driving force. You just gave my entire spiel. I love how you said it. Yeah, it was so good how you said it. And thank you for this setup, because to me, I was tired of arguing with adults. I say grown-ups all the time, because on Planet Bonehead, it's kids and grown-ups, but I get tired of arguing with adults, because adults tend to fall in one of three camps. They don't care, or they're already completely on board, or they're already completely against it. But there aren't very many people to sway one way or another. And the time for swaying people is over. Like we're going down the path. We're already like at the 99-yard line, for an American football metaphor there, which is weird for me to use. But anyway, we're at the finish line, of what's about to happen. We still have time to change it. I'm not a doom and gloom predictor or at all. But I decided, you know what? The best way to make sure that 50 years, 100 years from now, we're not living in a wasteland like from Mad Max movies is kids. Because like you just said, they don't have this mentality of, we tried it before and it didn't work. They also don't have the mentality that you need to talk them into the planet's important. If you told a kid, hey, look at the world around you, would you rather that the sky stayed blue and you could go outside and breathe without a respirator, or would you prefer that the sky was gray and you couldn't go outside for more than 5 minutes? They'd be like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense to me. Their immediate thought would be like, we have to do anything we can to make sure that the earth stays clean. Whereas the adults in the room would go like, well, of course I want it to stay that way, but what's going to be the income expense reports going to say? And, what's going to be the bottom line? And that we're going to have to retrain our entire workforce. Oh my God. In 200 years, there won't be a workforce. We'll all just be killing each other for scraps on the ground. That's what's our future, if we don't completely fix this. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to talk to kids about this because they're smart and they get it. And so I went about it a way that I wanted to bring my optimism and empowerment into it. So I show them the problems. I don't sugarcoat it, but here's the problem, and it's a real problem, and it's causing this and it's causing that, and blah, blah, blah. But here's the solution. And I'll show them green tech companies and scientists and organizations that are doing actual work today to reverse the problem or solve the problem or end the problem, fix the problem, so that they are not scared about it. Like they know, like, oh, we're actually doing something about it. And then the next part is, what can you do about it? What can you do at home and at school? And I give them ideas, but I also give them lesson plans that the teachers can use for the kids to design their own solutions. A kid will come up with a solution to a problem without worrying about, well, that's against physics, or you can't, science doesn't know how to do that yet, or that's impossible. So many things are impossible until we do them, And one example I often use is, I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek. But I'm sure you know Star Trek, right?
Mm.
So Star Trek was in the 60s, and we all saw well, not me, I wasn't born yet, but we've all seen Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock with their flip communicators, right? We've seen them with their warp drives going through the galaxy, and kids grew up watching that going, I want to be that. And so many kids grew up and became engineers and invented the flip phone. The flip phone that we had from the 90s, or when was that? And that was because they saw it on Star Trek. Literally, like, you could Google this. The flip phone was designed by people because they wanted what Captain Kirk had. And so it wasn't a thing that was possible in the 60s or the 70s or even the 80s. These things just weren't possible. But kids of that day were like, no, we're going to have this. I am going to have this in my life. And today there are scientists who are working on warp drive. It might not happen in our lifetime, but it will happen. They'll figure out how to do it without breaking the laws of physics, because it's impossible until it's possible. The 4-minute mile was impossible until somebody did it, and then 15 other people did it a week later. You know what I mean? So that's how we work as a species. And again, we have to work as a species. We have to do it in the way that's natural for us, in the way that we actually work. When we're doing it against our own interests and against our own nature, that's what we're fighting against, and that's why people are so opposed to the windmills and solar or whatnot, because they just feel like it's too much of a change at once. It's not evolutionary. So that.
I think there's a pattern here, Bobby. You're going to finish off every answer with
literally,
there it is.
I would just keep talking. I have to stop myself. So.
No, it's hilarious. It's really good. So kind of from that, then, I'm trying to kind of do a bridge here, because not everybody watching and listening to this obviously has children or kids or students as their let's call it customer in the broadest sense, and they may well have the grown-ups as their audience. If they do, and I'm looking at the link here between maybe the teachers, because you don't necessarily have direct access through Planet Bonehead straight into every single child or student that you'd want to get. There is this kind of, almost, you could call them gatekeeper, maybe the teacher who needs to translate what's available into the classroom, as it were. And I guess the analogy there is that if you have somebody listening to this and they say, I am so up for this, I want to take this back to my organization, I feel like the teacher, but I've got this bunch of grown-ups who, they don't behave like kids because they're not free thinking, they're not innovative, they're actually quite stuck in their ways, and this is a very stoic kind of organization. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but I kind of want to kind of draw the same things that Bobby's talking about for children and kind of take those ideas to my audience internally in the business. Are the teachers the real key to this? In other words, is somebody listening to this almost as maybe a sponsor internally within the organization? Are they the key to making this happen? Because most people are either in denial or they just don't really get the scale of the problem. So these kind of sponsors, these people who kind of get it and hear it, like your teachers who do take this on board, they've got to be the key to this, haven't they?
Yeah, that you're very good at these analogies. Yeah, so let's. There's two parts to what I'm doing with Planet Bonehead. There's the I'm trying to sell it to schools to get them to use it in their classrooms. And there are a lot of decision makers and stakeholders there. And I'm also looking to partner with businesses as sponsors for virtual events or as a social impact partner to help fund this and bring this into schools that can't afford it. So let's use the teacher part as the analogy. I'll continue what you were saying. So the end decision maker, usually for me, is the principal or potentially the superintendent of a district. They're the ones who will rubber stamp the purchase and say, let's buy this. But the teachers are the educators themselves are the ones that the program is for, because they're the ones who have to use it in their classroom. And on top of that, the children are the ones that I'm eventually trying to help and prepare them for careers. So I'm trying to play everybody's needs in my mind as I'm making and presenting this program to the world. To just go straight to a superintendent and say, hey, buy this thing, they're not going to know if the teachers actually want it. So I have to get the teachers on board. They are probably, as you said, the gatekeeper of the thing. If the teachers don't like it, then the administrators in the districts and the schools just won't care. Well, if they don't want it, I don't want it. But I do need to solve all of their problems. I need to make something that the teachers can actually use, but it also needs to be affordable and scalable in a way that the district administrators need. On the business side of things, it's sort of like I'm making a product for the engineers in a company, or the mid management, or the sales directors, or something mid to upper tier in a business. But ultimately the decision to buy it or not is going to be the business director or the CMO or the CEO. But it doesn't really seem like for a company with hundreds of employees, for me to market it directly to the CEO of a company that size makes absolutely no sense, because they're going to be like, I don't think about these things. It just comes up the ladder to me. So, or even on a very large company, it might not even be the CEO's final decision. It might be some kind of manager's decision, but I'm making it for the people that they manage, is maybe a better analogy there. So yeah, but in terms of the sponsorship idea, like I don't have a specific sponsorship program today, but I am looking for companies that are thinking, gee, I really want to find something that my company can do to show our community, our employees, our customers, our vital stakeholders, that we're doing something proactive, not just for the environment in general, some nebulous, oh, look, we did this and that's good for green things, but actually something for the children of our community, or the children of our state or region, or however big this company is. And so I'm looking for, some kind of strategic or joint partnerships in that regard. Some ideas that I have are that I know that there are companies out there with ESG programs that don't really have the social metrics down. It's a little bit easier for many companies to have the environmental metrics and the governance metrics. I'm assuming that your audience knows ESG. Is that okay?
I think most will. Yes,
okay.
I think most will.
Because on most podcasts, I have to explain it from grade level, but I kind of skipped a few steps with you.
Yeah. No,
right. So many have the E and the G kind of down. It's like we've got this new fleet of trucks that have lowered our emissions this much, and they can show how they've lowered their carbon footprint a substantial amount, and that's the E is great. And the G is they've restructured their governance system, and they've got DEI programs, or maybe not anymore in the United States with Trump, but who knows, but the S is kind of weird. It's make believe almost. Nobody knows how to measure it other than we donated money to this charity, and those are what's called input metrics. Money that you put into something doesn't really mean anything, because you can give money to a charity and not much happens from it other than they paid their administrative costs, or you're just putting money into things that you don't know. You can't say we paid money into this thing and this happened. All you can say is we gave money to this charity, or we put money into this program. So what I'm saying is by working with Planet Bonehead, you can help to fund this, where I can bring it to schools for free that can't afford it otherwise, and you would actually have a metric that's quantifiable. We created an environmental program to teach X number of students in K through 8, or X number of teachers have this program now for 1 year. And that's an actual metric for your ESG report that you didn't have before. Plus, it ties directly into the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is quality education, which I don't see many companies with ESG reports that are nailing that one. They're hitting some of them, but many are missing that one. So these are just some ideas. On a more general scale, there's just working with me in some way to bring it to your particular school, just for your CSR program. Maybe smaller companies don't have an ESG. But you still have CSR. You still have stakeholders that care. You could still do a press release or an email blast to all your customers and your employees and tell them, hey, we think the environment's important, and we really think our community is important, and we are now working with Planet Bonehead to bring environmental programming to the schools in our community. What do you think of that? That's just a win for everybody. It's a few dollars out of their pockets, but it's a real tangible thing that you're doing for their children. You know what I mean? It's not even just some thing you're doing that nobody understands. It's tangible, it's measurable, and it's real. So that's what I'm offering to businesses, really, of any size that want to do that. I'm looking for partnerships of that. Those are just 2 examples that I've come up with, but I'm willing to design anything. They could be completely individualized for anybody that wants to work with me.
It's exciting, isn't it? Because one of the things that I've seen, and I guess it is quite widely reported, this whole thing about keeping things local, because I think you've intimated that it's a big topic, this. And whilst we all love polar bears, seeing an image of a polar bear on a melting ice sheet is it's tragic, but it's not going to stimulate behavior change in many people. Whereas what you're describing, and I would totally say it reflects everything that I'm seeing, is that social piece in ESG is the missing piece of the jigsaw, because most people are focused on the environmental stuff because it gets lots of media coverage. Obviously, there's the Trump impact, etc., etc. It's front of mind for all of us, and it's almost that the social bit kind of is the poor relative, whereas actually what you're doing is you're saying this is a quick win. It's actually, for most organizations particularly, this is a quick win to support something like this that will enable you to probably have those conversations which you weren't having internally. This is a fuel for that, but at the same time really doing good. So it's kind of a win-win-win. It's ticking many boxes, isn't it?
It is, because going back to your gatekeeper teacher analogy earlier, if a CEO or a CMO is listening to this, then you're maybe the decision maker, and so you can put the pieces together in your own mind. But for somebody who's a little lower in the organization, who is surrounded by the adults in the room who are stoic and conservative and don't really you really have to hit them over the head for them to get it. The social aspect is difficult because it is so nebulous and intangible. It's not very quantifiable. But this is, you can actually point to a specific number of teachers and students and say, we can help 25 teachers and 600 students by doing this, and it would cost this amount of money, and we could tell our community that we're doing that, and everybody wins from that, so that's much easier to bring up the ladder, because you're going to them with proof, you're going to them with evidence, rather than say, I think we should help trees. All right. I want to help trees too, dude, but I don't know what to tell you. How does that help the business? This helps the business by helping the kids, and also for many companies that are in STEM fields. By doing this, you're also you're paving the way for the people in your community to be better educated, so that as they're graduating school in 5 years, in 10 years, they're better educated to be the customers you need them to be the employees you need them to be the leaders of your industry or your business that you need them to be. You're going to need people to hand the baton off to in 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 years. We should really be grooming them now. We should be getting them ready for it. I don't like that word grooming, but you know what I mean. We should be preparing them so that they are educated. We should be educating them now. How about that? We should be educating them now so that they are prepared to be those things, and not be completely blindsided by what's coming for them.
I love that. And that was actually where my head was going, Bobby. And honestly, I'm not just hooking onto this. I was thinking there's almost this kind of crumb trail that you're creating by doing this through schools and through colleges, because as soon as you've got somebody who's bought into that brand, because as a child, they grew up knowing that brand was kind of supporting this particular program in the school.
Yeah.
They then went to college, and there was some training or apprenticeship kind of program that then related to, oh, it's that same brand again. And then when they were looking for a role, all that careers fair I went to, there's that same brand again. They're always there. They're always doing the right thing by me. They've been supportive of me. They've actually helped me learn about this stuff. I'm going to apply for that role with them.
Yes.
Is it this kind of trail of stuff? It's really strategic, isn't it? This isn't just about short-term ticking the box for this year's report. This is actually building a real future for the business, isn't it?
It's both. You get to tick the box for this year's report, and you get to prepare the children of today for the roles that you need them to be applying for and filling tomorrow. So you get to do both with this. And that to me is a home run for everybody, because it's not even just a greedy, sinister, oh, I'm going to make the kids do what I want. No, you're not Willy Wonka imprisoning the Oompa Loompas. You're a person helping your community. You're helping your community to thrive. The people in the community are parents with children in schools. They're going to know that you are the one helping their kids get an education today, and the kids are going to grow up remembering that, oh, I remember learning about this, and it was brought to me by that company. They're going to remember this, and they're going to remember it fondly and favorably. Some of them will be loyal customers because of it, depending on your business model. Some of them will go into that field and work for you or run your company in the future. It's ticking all the boxes. 100%. You're right.
It's really exciting, isn't it? I mean, this feels like it's the tip of the iceberg. I can't believe that Bobby is going to rest on his laurels and we'll just see what plays out and see what happens. You must have some other stuff kind of brewing in the background. Is there anything you can share with us of new things coming through?
Yeah, I have. So there are 3 aspects to Planet Bonehead. Thank you for this question. There are 3 aspects to Planet Bonehead, and the one we've talked about the most so far is the resources for the classroom, teaching the kids. But the other 2 are actually for the educators. I have a teacher learning center to teach teachers about climate change, because they don't really understand it. They're subject to the same misinformation that everybody else is, and the same confusion and the myths and the facts and all of that. So I'm creating that, and that's a part of it. But the part that your audience would probably be more interested in is the 3rd part, which I'm calling Planet Symposium. And that is going to be a live virtual event to start. I'm not going to rest on my laurels in the future. I would like it to be an in-person event at the Javits Center in Manhattan, but we got to get there. But what I want it to be is a virtual event that teachers, educators, even administrators can come to digitally on their computers and listen to panels of experts. I want to have panels of experts talking. They're going to be green tech leaders, CEOs, and also the scientists and engineers. There's going to be climate scientists. I'm friends with one guy from NASA JPL who I want to work with on this. People who are just climate scientists on all levels, and people who are in education who are also right next to Planet Bonehead, leading the charge on environmental education. People who are teaching kids about recycling, people who are bringing different programs directly into the classroom. Personally, I don't go to classrooms and do things for 30 kids. I make a program that's used for thousands of kids at a time, digitally. But the symposium is going to be a live virtual event for this, and I want to bring sponsors in that want to put themselves in front of this audience and let the world know that we stand for this, we care about this, and we want to see kids get educated about this. My dog is trying to climb up on me. Stop. And so that's a big part of Planet Bonehead, and it's something I'm very excited about, and I just want to see all of these things grow. I want to see the teacher courses grow to include many courses for teachers and give them certification and professional development courses there. I want to see the climate units for the classroom just expand to cover all aspects of climate change and green technology, and really empower kids to become leaders in STEM fields. And the symposium, one of the things about the symposium that's very exciting to me, we haven't really touched upon this yet, is I have spoken to so many green tech leaders, especially CEOs in green tech companies, and you would think that the thing they need kids learning the most is the science and the math. But the thing they all tell me is that we need kids with all talents. We need the lawyers, we need the accountants, we need the artists, we need the kids whose talents don't seem like they would have anything to do with green technology. They need them all, because just like any business, you have aspects that require skill sets beyond just the product or service that you make. You need people who can sell it. You need people who can market it. You need people who can advocate for it. You need people who can, you need all of it, and green technology is desperate for this because, as I said in the beginning here, green technology is saving the world and nobody knows about it. And that's their biggest problem. They've got plenty of people who are diehard scientists and engineers. But those people generally do not know how to explain what they are doing to people who aren't living in that world. My business for 30 years has been branding and marketing for technical B2B. And I've built a career talking to the engineering, nerds, I'll put in air quotes, that know their stuff, but have a very difficult time articulating it to somebody that does not know that stuff. And it just goes right over their heads. And I think that's why there's so much pushback to green technology, because the people in it don't know how to explain it to the rest of us to get us excited without either using techno jargon that we don't understand or negative consequences that are scaring the crap out of everybody, and we don't want to hear it, and those are the only tools they have most of the time. But the real tool that they have that they're missing is the optimism and the empowerment and the imagination and the fun of it, and the how we could actually be doing better just by making tweaks, not by changing everything, just by making tweaks. So I really want to get these CEOs on these panels to tell teachers, this is what we need kids to be learning, not just the science and the math, but also advocate for all of their skills, help them nurture all of their skills so that they could bring this into it. And also so that the kids know that these fields exist. You know, we all have that question asked when we're little kids: what do you want to be when you grow up? And I don't think very many children say, I want to be a green tech scientist, because they don't know that exists. They don't know it's a possibility. We need to let them know this is a possibility. This is a thing you can be, and let them say, oh, I want to be that. You know, let them get excited about it now. Imagine putting your name on that. Imagine being the company that brought that to a kid's life. I remember that company. They made me want to be this thing that I am when I grow up. They'll love you forever. You know,
It's wonderful. I mean, it really is. I mean, just the passion with which you share this, but it's contagious, isn't it? And I think this is what collectively we can do, is to kind of jump on this thing and say, it's real. This is not a tomorrow thing. This is actually happening right here, right now,
yes.
And it's about collaboration, isn't it? It feels like you're very much into kind of collaboratively creating this, or co-creating, I think is the phrase, isn't it? Is that really important to you, that people come on board expecting to almost be putting their kind of ideas and stuff forward so that you can work on it together?
Yes. Very much so. It's why I don't want to make a one-size-fits-all social impact program. Pay this much money and you get these 10 things on a list. That's nobody cares about that. And really, to me, that's kind of greenwashing again. I want to talk to the CEO or the CMO of a company and ask them, like, what are your business concerns? What are the pain points that are keeping you up at night when it comes to your essential stakeholders? You're trying to reach new customers, or even more importantly, you're trying to retain the loyal customers that you have already. And maybe it's not your customers, maybe it's your employees. Maybe you're churning through employees too quickly because they're finding better jobs somewhere else. But imagine if you were doing stuff in the community that was helping their children, or giving them the opportunity to volunteer or be a part of something that was giving them more fulfillment in their own personal lives. Why would they want to leave your company and go somewhere else for the same amount of money doing the same work, or maybe just a little bit more money, when they would lose that fulfillment? We always think it's about money. I'll pay you $10 more or whatever, and money's important, of course. But money's not everything, and people want fulfillment and meaning in their lives. And when they're not getting that at work, they'll blame the money. If I'm not getting fulfillment in my job, I'll just say, this place isn't worth the money they're paying me. And I'll find another job with my skill set for more money. Well, maybe for more money, it'll be worth it. And it won't be, because they still won't have the fulfillment. But if you give them the fulfillment, then the other job at your competitor for a little more money won't mean as much to them. They won't want to make that change, because they'll know, I'll be getting, a few $100 or $1,000 more a year, but I'll be losing this. I'll be losing this meaning and pride that I have to come here every day. That's a big pill to swallow for a lot of people. They're not going to do it, So that doesn't mean give them fulfillment and cut their salaries. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I am saying that if you're having churn, this is a way to end churn, is to give them something that they want other than the money that maybe you can't give them. Maybe you just don't have the money to give them more. Give them something else. Give them meaning. This is a way to do that really hits home, because it's helping the kids in their community, or in real life right now. Not tomorrow's kids, not some trees in a forest they're never going to see, not some air that they're never going to meet or breathing. Your kids in your city today. What's better than that? Who cares more about that than anything? You know what I mean? No, I mean, who cares more about anything else than that? That's what I meant.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? It really is. And it is so simple. This is the thing. I think, for a lot of us, we've overcomplicated this stuff. And I think, the beauty of your work, Bobby, is that you clarify it, you simplify it, and you make it accessible. And I think that's the real beauty of what you're doing here. How do people connect with you? I mean, we've dangled this carrot in front of them and said, look, we've got this amazing stuff. There's the Symposium, there's all these resources, there's connecting directly with Bobby if you've got some great ideas to share and co-create with. How do they connect with you?
There are two perfect ways to do it. The first way is on my LinkedIn profile. It's generally written for the teachers and schools, not for business things, but that's the best way to message me, is to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message. I always get them. So I'm Bobby Donohue on LinkedIn. I think I can just share my link with you and you can share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other way is on my Planet Bonehead website at planetbonehead.com/social impact. There's information generally about what I'm trying to do there with businesses. And there's a contact form that I will get. If you got my email or my phone number, you can try it. But, phone numbers that I don't know go away, and emails go to spam that if I don't know you. So I have to know you before sending me a cold email. Otherwise, I miss a lot of them. I look, but I miss them. But LinkedIn and the website are the two best ways to connect with me. I'm always looking to connect with people on LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn first.
Wonderful. We'll put both of those links into the description below, people. So yes, get hold of Bobby if you feel like you can collaborate and you feel like you're curious about the various initiatives that he has going on. Bobby, one final question: if somebody is a parent, we haven't really talked about parents, but if they're a parent, maybe they're not able to get kind of hooked into the teachers or the schools that are involved in this kind of program. Is there anything they can do? Standalone parent, not connected in any way with any of this stuff. What would your kind of word of advice be for them to kind of share with their children, maybe?
Yeah, there's two things a parent can do. So first is, if a parent could advocate Planet Bonehead to their school. Maybe the school doesn't know about Planet Bonehead. The parent can tell them about it. That would be helpful. But in the case if maybe they're a homeschooling parent or they want to supplement their kids' education, I have different levels to join Planet Bonehead, and one of them is just the classroom level. It's meant for one or two teachers, but it's also meant for homeschooling. So a parent can just join on their own for a small annual fee and get access to everything, including the Planet Symposium, including the Teacher Learning Center, and of course the classroom units to teach for the kids. So anybody can join. You don't have to be a teacher to join Planet Bonehead.
Wonderful. Bobby, continue the passion, the enthusiasm, and the great work that you're doing. I think, the world needs more Bobby Donohues, as far as I'm concerned. Doing some great,
I'm going to go tell my
work.
wife you said that.
Share the podcast. You can listen to the podcast. All about you. No, I really, really appreciate your kind of wisdom, ideas, and enthusiasm today, Bobby, because it's been, I think a real wake-up call for a lot of us, just in terms of what we can actually do to take action. And that's always really, really helpful for everyone. So Bobby Donohue, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate you having me on today. This was a great talk. I had so much fun. Thanks.